LGBT is an initialism that stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. In use since the 1990s, the term is an abbreviation for the initialism LGB, which began to replace the term gay in reference to the broader LGBT community beginning in the mid to late 1980s. The initialism, as well as some of its common variants, function as an umbrella term for sexuality and gender identity. It may refer to anyone who is non-heterosexual or non-cisgender, instead or exclusively to people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. To recognize these inclusions, the popular variants LGBTQ adds the letter Q for those who identify as queer or and questioning their sexual identity. Those who add intersex people to LGBT groups or organizing may use the extended initialisms LGBT. These two initialisms are sometimes combined to form the terms LGBTQ or LGBT to encompass spectrum of sexuality and gender. Other, less common variants also exist, with some being rather extreme in length, resulting in an initialism over twice as long, which has prompted some criticism. LGBT history. LGBT history dates back to the first recorded instance of same-sex love and sexuality of ancient civilizations involving the history of lesbians, gay, bisexuals, and transgender peoples and cultures around the world. What survived after many centuries of persecutions resulting in shame, suppression, and secrecy has only in more recent decades been pursued and interwoven into more mainstream historical narratives. In 1994, the annual observance of LGBT History Month began in the US, and it has since been picked up in other countries. This observance involved highlighting the history of the people, LGBT rights, and related civil rights movements. It is observed during October in the United States, to include the National Coming Out Day on October 11th. In the United Kingdom, it is observed during February to coincide with a major celebration of the 2005 abolition of Section 28, which had prohibited local authorities from promoting homosexuality.
In the recent decades, LGBT movements have become more active and wild in advocating LGBT people in the society. The activists tend to fight to claim for social equal rights in the society and liberation in the law from their government. Until now, about 29 countries in the world has legalized the marriage between the same gender people, which includes United States, Canada, Australia, and Spain. It's not just there. The influence from these movements have been brought to Southeast Asia, and as a result, 7 out of 11 countries in the region has legalized sexual activity between people with the same gender. This excludes Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and Myanmar. In Malaysia, LGBT activities is considered illegal under the Malaysia Penal Code Section 377A, B and C. And the offender can be meted out up to 20 years of imprisonment or whipping. Nonetheless, there are still a minority of people who practice LGBT activities, and surprisingly, the number of these people is increasing year by year. This is based on the statistic released by Jakim officer Muhammad Azwani that claimed the number of gay men had increased from 173,000 in 2013 to to 310,000 in 2018. Not just that, the number of transgender people also had increased from 10,000 in 1988 to 30,000 in 2018. So we might ask ourselves, how does this minority people live their life in this strict country? So let's watch this video.
I've arranged to meet someone who's become a symbol of resistance for the trans community.
Starting from here, these are my old albums.
That's you.
This is me and my father's name.
You're very sweet. But that's you as a little boy.
Little boy, very
How
guy.
old are you there? Maybe 4, 5?
Oh yes, myself.
Ever since she was a child, Serafina felt she was in the wrong body. She's used hormones, has had breast implants, and now lives as a woman. But to Malaysia's government, she'll always be a man.
This is my identity card, and this is my driver license card.
And this has got your birth name, your male birth name, and it says Lilaki, which is male.
The ID card is a document Malaysians are obliged to carry with them at all times. To the religious police, it's constant proof that Serafina is breaking the law.
Let me tell me one thing, highly educated. But when I go and ask in the hospital work for me, the man asked me to work. Then he saw my identity card. He said my return is I'm a man.
He wanted you to dress as a man before he give you a job, and you said no.
I can't because I've been this life when I was younger age is 8 years old.
Durga isn't a Muslim, so she gets no trouble from the religious police. But with no access to jobs, she says she has no choice but to do sex work.
How dangerous is it here?
Most of them, if they're drunk, they will rough to us.
Pernah kepala saya kena hantuk kat dinding sebab what the hell okay.
If she means in trouble, means I have to go. I have to look for her, I have to help her. Because I feel her as a sister.
So, what does Islam say about this LGBT phenomenon? There must be some kind of verses from the Quran or maybe some hadith that is out there that we can refer to for this LGBT. And you see, many of us Muslims in Malaysia, we are so against LGBT. And why is that? Because there are already many Quranic verses, many hadith that prohibit us from doing the LGBT. So I want to share with you the famous verses from the Quran about Qawm Lut. Let's hear it together.
ولوطا إذ قال لقومه أتأتون الفاحشة ما سبقكم بها من أحد من العالمين إنكم لتأتون الرجال شهوة من دون النساء بل أنتم قوم مسرفون.
And you already know about how the Qawm of Nabi Lut died. You know the story where the city of Sodom get flipped, and that is because they used to do the gay part.
The homosexual relation between men are called gay, and the homosexual relation between women is called lesbian. So there's a hadith from Prophet Muhammad SAW in which he said, no woman sleeps with another woman unless they are considered as adulterers, and no man sleeps with men unless they are considered as adulterers. So really, gay and lesbian are treated as the same thing. Homosexuality is a really heavy sin in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you find anyone doing as Lut people did, kill the one who does it and the one to whom it is done.
And then there's also this hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ where it says Prophet Muhammad ﷺ cursed men who copy women and cursed women who copy men.
Men can copy women maybe just by wearing women clothes or accessories, and vice versa. Even wearing clothes that are of our opposite gender is prohibited. Can you imagine the seriousness of changing one's gender to the opposite gender? And that shows the prohibition of transgenderism.
My suggestion upon this LGBT issue that people, especially Muslim, must give a thought why is LGBT is prohibited. The prohibition is because it can cause various dangerous viruses such as AIDS and HIV that can be easily transmitted. And teenagers especially must have a broad thinking why it is haram. This means school, universities, and also parents must highlight this problem so that the teenagers will not get involved or have passion into it. Third, the government must take serious action on it by implementing more Islamic law, making people who are involved or about to can stop and feel afraid of Allah. The fourth one is by stopping or immediately ban all smartphone applications and social media that have LGBT issues or engagement into it. Lastly, the fifth one, declare a new law for the people that are engaged into this activity. After that, giving them a talk why is LGBT is prohibited by Allah. So the conclusion, the rise of LGBT have become a more serious issues as this is really prohibited in Islam and prohibited by Allah. As you all may know, Allah created men and women for a purpose. The purpose to produce more Islam or Muslim people and making Islam more large in number.